Hello, I am Koby Phillips, the VP of Cloud here at Telarus, and today I am joined with John White, Chief Innovation Officer at Effectual, alongside Zach Shapiro, VP of Data Solutions. So guys, a little bit of background about Effectual would be tremendously warranted here, because I could not speak higher of a company that we've engaged with. You guys are amazing at what you do. And the whole idea here is to give a little bit more insight to exactly what that is. So if you guys want to kickstart it and let us know a little bit about Effectual and your go-to-market strategy and where you guys really play within our environment with our channel and particularly with our partners and their customers.
Sure, yeah, I'll start and then Zach can add any color that he wants to. So Effectual is a few-year-old company really focused on driving business solutions inside of AWS. So we provide professional services as well as managed services to customers in the commercial and the PubSec world. And all of our focus really typically is really on three things. We're either helping customers migrate into the cloud, so we're taking their data centers and moving them into AWS, either landing them in AWS native or VMC on AWS. We're helping them, if they're in the cloud already, focus in and grabbing more data or grabbing insights out of that data. So we have a whole data intelligence practice that Zach runs, or we're helping our customers with developing new applications or modernizing applications. So we'll go in and we'll help modernize customers' apps that maybe are running in old monolithic app sets inside of their data center, or maybe they're living inside of a mainframe, and we'll help them bring that into AWS Cloud and modernize that into microservices and actually get some more business value out of it than maybe what they've achieved in the past.
Yeah, and to add on a little bit what John was saying for our go-to-market, we work a lot with partners and hyperscalers like AWS. So the partner ecosystem, we work with master agents just like Telarus to help, increase the leads and all those type of things, as well as value-added resellers. Like, you've seen press releases of us with Trace3. They're a big partner of ours. So we do that, as well as, AWS. I think that's an obvious one. Premier partner there. We're really tight with a lot of their verticals and different services they have. And they introduced us to a lot of customers. But also, the last one I'll mention is HashiCorp. We work a lot with them and have immense Terraform experience. So, we really leverage our channels and partner with other companies to grow our business.
And I think what's interesting there is obviously there's a bit of competition potentially with some of the resale models for our partners, but some of the partnerships that you have there also open up additional routes to product that you guys can bring in and then help fulfill needs for the partners in our channel and their customers. So it sounds like you guys have a really good focused channel go-to-market strategy, and we're really excited to be a part of that. Now, we recently, Zach and you and I sat down just briefly in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, coming off of AWS's biggest event, which is called reInvent, of course. I think was it north of 50,000, pushing into almost triple or six figures of attendance there. It was definitely back in full swing, and it's for us, coming from our channel and the expanded technology reach that we've seen in the last 2 years, if I would have went to that event a couple of years ago and walked around, there's probably a lot of gaps of technology we couldn't get to. The thing that excites me continually is walk around and we're bringing in more and more technology, and Effectual, you guys doing a tremendous job of that. I saw a lot of unique things that AWS is doing there and a lot of big takeaways. And as one of our premier go-to players for all things AWS, as you guys outlined, I'd love to understand what you guys took away from it. Zach, John, whoever wants to kind of dive on, I'd love to just get some key takeaways from what you guys are seeing coming off of that and what AWS is focused on, in your opinion.
John.
Yeah, I think the show was definitely pretty insane compared to where we've been, just last year with it. And I've attended reInvents for probably the last 6 years now, so I've been to a whole bunch of them. So I think you're right. I mean, the hype, the intensity of the people that were there were definitely a different feeling. It felt like the tech community was kind of back together again, which was pretty cool. The one thing I did notice at reInvent was there's a lot of decision makers there. And there was a lot of those people wearing the executive badges. And I think that was a big change. I think finally the attendees were, the people that the companies have typically attended they weren't sending, a few people from down the stack and kind of learning to, see where this might go in discovery in the future. They actually want to put pen to paper and actually start to get some things done and get some results as they're realizing, hey, this 2020 wake-up call we had, we can't be stuck in this situation again. We need to start pushing the business forward with our technology stacks. And I think that kind of goes with some of the theme that I heard from reInvent. And it's interesting for me. So last year I was at reInvent as an employee of AWS. And so this year coming in, not having some of the background coming into the keynotes and that kind of stuff was kind of fun for me. It was like surprises almost. But I sat through Peter DeSantis's keynote Monday evening, which is my favorite. If you attend reInvent, that's like the one you have to go to. It's the major nerd out session. And just looking at some of the data he was presenting with how long they've been building and operating this infrastructure and these models and the problems they're thinking about gives you some ideas on how far ahead they are and advanced they're ahead inside their infrastructure. So now, just like any other business, they've shored up their infrastructure. They can focus on all the applications and results they can drive above. And so I think listening to some of the other keynotes, focusing in on the data side of it, that I'm sure Zach will jump in on, as well as then kind of the revs that they had in providing databases as a service, and those types of things, making that very complex thing that occurs in the data center today very easy in the cloud was kind of that constant theme that I just kept hearing and thinking. And I'm thinking, oh my God, all these executives, they're here at the perfect time. If they would have been here a few years ago, they'd have been like, this is a science project. What the heck are you doing? Now they're like, oh my God, we can streamline our business. Zach will know more about it, but there's like this whole zero ETL that was part of one of the keynotes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like even I understand, like that makes this super, super easy for those people that have these complex data sets all over the place. It makes it easy to make kind of AWS that turnkey, checkbox. So, that's my take on it. I was super excited, super pumped coming out of it. But I think, a lot of other people were too. And I think we're going to see a lot of businesses and enterprises start putting the pen to the paper in 2023 to finally get some stuff done because they trust in where AWS is at.
I wanted to say, because John mentioned in the beginning, Effectual is really focused on business outcomes and business solutions for customers, and that's why we're aligned to AWS. I mean, you see what they're trying to do. They're trying to create more and more managed services, more serverless, all the updates to Glue and streaming into Redshift and zero ETL. To do all of that, it's also the customer can focus on what is the actual business outcome you're trying to drive. The less that's, cloud in the first place, less focus on managing your servers, managing operations. Then comes DevOps for coders. Then comes machine learning operations for data science and people creating models. It's just trying to automate and streamline the operation so that people can focus on their actual day jobs and not like, oh wow, this server went down or this security incident came on. Like now we got to go analyze logs for the next 24 hours and stay up all night and make sure this doesn't happen again and patch it. All these, all these serverless and managed service for AWS, they're taking a lot of that out of it so you can really focus on what drives your business forward and less focus on the operations that has to be there to run it that way.
And I think that perfectly aligns with most of our partners' go-to-market strategy with their customers as well. As we're always focused on business outcomes and driving the business conversation, not getting too into the weeds with the technical stuff. That's where we bring in our engineers and you guys in to have those deeper conversations. But one thing that I'm picking up here as we're talking is there's not anything that's not a good fit as far as, obviously there's size and verticals and all that kind of stuff that always comes into play. But as far as having the conversation, if a customer is already in AWS, Effectual seems like you could come in and do some really good stuff there. If they're looking to migrate or they're looking to get more operationally aligned and a lot more optimized across the board, that's where you guys can come in and make a pretty big impact. Zach, you and I had a conversation when we were there, and you'd mentioned you'd give me an example of an account coming in and moving more to that modular-based data set and product, kind of productized that way. And there was a substantial cost reduction, right? But that's just on the front end, not to mention the complete ripple effect that has throughout all of the other areas of the business. Without getting too into the weeds, just maybe kind of a quick snapshot. Walk through that real quickly as an example for our partners of where you guys can come in and make a pretty big impact for customers.
Yeah, I think it's just really segmenting out different workloads, right? Like, for example, one of the new things that AWS released at reInvent is now you can stream from Kinesis or managed Kafka straight into Redshift. You don't have to connect drivers. There's no middle steps. You stream it right in. Redshift almost becomes this live querying of streaming data. Like something like that is so huge, but that's only for one part, right? That's if you're streaming data from maybe video, but then you could still have legacy database or batch jobs or all those type of things, rather than having that all on one server or having a queue or those type of things. Like you're saying, using all this serverless technology to where it could just pick up, run for its millisecond, boom, go down, whether that's a container, a Lambda, or anything. It just segments it out and also reduces the blast radius for, issues are going to happen. There's no way we'll ever get to a point where issues are not going to happen. So if that issue happens and that thing goes down, it doesn't affect so many other things. And it's a much quicker debugging session when you can isolate the issue to that point.
Yeah, that continued driving of just what we need when we need it, right? And I think that's, John, that's one of the things that you kind of mentioned pre-call, so I don't want to take credit for this, but and I'll kick it back to you to expand on it. But that going faster, right? That's what I saw it, the expansion of products, but getting everybody to what they need to get to faster than they ever have. Would you say that was, again, your takeaway from the AWS like big theme for the show at least?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job of making everybody's lives easier, making things work faster inside of their infrastructure. I think the challenge, and this is what I heard even when I was at AWS, is like, okay, great, John, we realize you have like 100 different ways to do things. Like, just tell me what to do. And I think that's what's happening too, is like you look, and I think it was, I'm not sure if I'm exaggerating here or not, but I want to say I read like 200 announcements made at reInvent. And I think I can't remember if I read it on like TechCrunch or something, but 200 announcements is insane to try to like keep up and follow up with. And so like our theme this year for reInvent was business outcome accelerator. And like a lot of how we're doing that is by knowing what to do, when to do it, where to do it. Our deep partnership with AWS allows us to do that. I mean, we have hundreds of engineers focused on understanding how AWS works. And so we'll take over customers' accounts, that they've gone to AWS. They have stuff in AWS, but the efficiencies, the cost side of things, the availability and the operations that they kind of build it with are not exactly up to snuff for what we think. We go and we help them kind of drive towards that optimal solution and accelerate them to where they want to go. And I think, the big thing for any enterprises or that are out there listening to this is like, that's what you need to start to think about is like, yes, your teams can do it and they'll do it very well and they'll do it with what they know. You got to find a partner though that can help accelerate you to that business outcome and accelerate you to good and great, because that's where you're going to start to get the true value out of the cloud.
Yeah, and what I've recognized is a lot of companies don't have that team, right? Like they'll do certain things, like you said, good and great, but what you guys can do and for customers is not in a lot of direct companies' skill set. It's hard. I mean, there's that skill gap that is continuing to get wider, not smaller. You had the Great Resignation come in and kick that and make it pretty big, and now you have a pending recession, and people are like, oh, well, then that'll fill in the great. No, not in tech. Tech's still growing the other way, right? There's a continual bigger job market. So companies like Effectual, where you guys are going out and sourcing and getting that talent. You just mentioned you were at AWS last year. Now you're over there, right? And you're helping guide Effectual in the direction that they're going within that AWS ecosystem. That's going to be the norm. And so our partners are pushing, clients to use more managed services. You guys, obviously, that's the preferred, solution for you guys as well to be able to come in and do that. What would you say, as you guys are looking, at profiling out, or some things that our partners can take away from, where you're like, go focus on this, and this is a great fit for Effectual, and we'll come in and make sure we run our part and nail everything down for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just where you're at in your journey. I mean, a lot of the customers that are still sitting in the data center, right? They don't know how to make the move. They don't have the experience on it. I mean, everybody talks about it. It's doable, but then the analysts and the press people will scare the heck out of you that, oh, it's going to be so much more expensive when you get there. And so, we find a lot of people, that we help them get started, and that saves them a ton of time and a ton of wasted resources in as they go along. So migrations, just starting there, big focal point for us. Managed services wrapped around it, professional services wrapped around it, super easy. But this data intelligence, and I'll let Zach talk a little more about it. I think that's like our huge, kind of golden arrow right now is like Zach and team have put together this super simple service, all based on AWS, that allows our customers to basically throw all this data at us, and then we produce insights, for that customer. And like that has been a huge lead in for us, because that's a problem that goes across any business, is that they have data sets living everywhere. They have no idea what this data means. They want to get data value out of it because that's what they read and they hear about, and the board's saying they need to do it, and we don't know how to do it. So we go and do that for them. And like, that's another big, opportunity. And I think the third one, and I'll let Zach, he can go further on that one, but the third one is then the app modernization. I mean, so many legacy apps sitting inside of data centers, maybe even moved into AWS on their own, they need to get modernized. I mean, focusing on .NET to move to .NET Core, taking, old monolithic applications, moving them to microservices, all those places are good focal points. And if you bring us in to kind of help in the start of it, I think it's a major change for the business. And then I think we find ways to work with, different people and different partners, then spin off certain things. Like there's certain companies that are out there today that are working with you. Like they can find niches in FinOps or security or, even procurement of like reserved instances and that kind of stuff. There's so many opportunities inside of AWS where we can come together and we're better together than if we try to go and do it on our own. So I think for me, the big kind of outcome there is like, let's just get the conversation started and find the different places where we can mesh, because that's how we're going to be able to really help their end customers and the businesses that are out there that are looking to try to make this journey.
Fantastic. Zach, anything to add on as we wrap up here?
Yeah, I'll just add on a last piece that we talk about a lot, and I talk a lot with customers is, customers, partners, whoever, like, I find myself in a lot of situations of people are coming in, they're going, do I use this tool or that tool? Or like, can you show me like the risk of using that or doing that? And I always pull the conversation back of like, what are you trying to do? So when it comes to Effectual, and that's why I love the whole business outcome accelerator thing is, the how, and John was saying it, there's so many different ways, even just across AWS, put in all the clouds, right? Put in all the clouds, put in Snowflake, put in Databricks. Like you could solve this problem a million different ways, but it's just, what are you actually trying to do? And who are the users and what are their downstream use cases? So I think, such a great fit with Effectual, even if they don't know where they're going yet or anything, we really have people who know how to ask the right questions. And I think that's like a huge value add is sometimes the customer knows they have their business challenges. They might know that there's data and applications sitting everywhere, but they might not actually know or even care about where the problem exists. Do they care about it if it's an API or an ETL problem? Do they care that Java code is not what they should do and they should rewrite it? No, but they care that they have a business problem. We can ask them those questions of what is that? Where does the data reside? Who are your users? Like, what are their roles in the organization? And once we get all those questions, we could really go off and whiteboard and architect and figure out the solution and come back and be like, look, this is the way to go. And really the customer just wants to know that you're going to meet their business outcome. And I think that's flipping it all on its head and selling the business and technology coming after. That's a big thing for me. And I know John and I talk about it and everyone in the company that's the conversation that we can drive. And maybe they don't know about the cloud yet. And yes, we do AWS, but I think really that's the conversation you have before you even think about any of the technology.
I couldn't agree more. Our messaging aligns perfectly with you guys on that and the go-to-market. We'll continue to look more and hearing more from all the things that you guys are doing, but I couldn't give a higher, stamp of approval or recommendation of getting you guys into the right opportunities. So we've had some really good success with you guys. I know we have some more stuff in the the funnel with some of our partners, and we'll continue to push on any AWS related opportunities towards you guys, because it's fantastic at what you guys get in and do. So I really appreciate you joining us, giving us some insight, again, from coming off of reInvent, and more insight even more to like what Effectual is bringing to the table for our partners to utilize for their customers. So thank you both. John, Zach, have a great rest of your day. And to our partners, thank you for joining as well. And if you have any questions for Zach or John, please reach out and we'll get you guys connected and get you into that conversation with Effectual. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.